Good morning. So this is our neural syntax seminar. Neural syntax, we have been now for about 2 years, we have been thinking about neural syntax. And today I give a report of my long journey. Journey started 40 years ago. Journey is the difference between what we hear and what we understand. This realization that we know a lot through reading, hearing, possibly doing, but we don't understand them. We use words assuming about their connotation without fully immersing in them. Why this came to me or why I thought about it? I thought about it because somehow I was inducted to do cremation services. Early days, people died, and we didn't have any provision in foreign country to dispose of human beings. So somebody in MIT, they recruited me to see whether I can help. I had not done such a thing before. But through that process, when I started to study or read the literature they gave me, there I saw the realization that the material that I'm reading are sound. They are each individually uttered. There is no groupings of them. And I could feel through several sittings that if I could utter them in clearly, individually, myself, with my full immersion, I myself get a different feeling. So this particular process, that sound can create a cloud around you if you can immerse yourself in it. That bothered me. I tried to experiment various ways, and somehow it came to be true to me. I tried to make small groups, tried to see that they can really recite or feel the power of sound in them through recitation. Some of them might, but I could see that some were trying to jump and some were trying to get. So that as a scientific problem, that you have a capacity to be immersed in sound, but you have the ability to come out of it through your whatever mental difficulties. So that was like an 80s. And so with those kind of thoughts and so on, I volunteered to join a department of Sanskrit here in Harvard. And when I'm doing this, I should express my gratitude to the faculty and students, staff, especially the chairman that time, Michael Vigil, my friend Thomas Burke, um, who did not think this was a bad problem. So they opened up the library and I tried to study. So when you study Sanskrit, then you come across grammar. So the question remains, what is knowledge and what is understanding? Through this process, when you go through the Sanskrit material, you encounter the Vedas. Vedas I had read when the commission sessions I was doing, but I had not fully fathomed them. So Vedas are said, they are spoken. Who spoke them? How something can be spoken from nowhere. So that took me to understand that is there a process, scientific process, where we can speak whatever in our mind. Is it true? Then I found that the modern theory of language would say that's not true. You say things because you are taught things. A word has a meaning, you check in the dictionary. You don't question why the word has a meaning. You have a name that's given to you. You don't question it. So these things kind of removes the man, the person, from the orbit of existence. That I have a right to exist. I know who I am, and I'm not being labeled. Then I did find that people have a high talent of labeling others, calling objects by names, by adjectives. By nature, I don't like that, but somehow I found, is that a scientific process? So all that takes me to today's talk about Paninian grammar and neurology to see whether we as human beings have particular attribute that we call speech. And that speech is not somebody gives to you, that speech that you make. It has many, many connotations, many diversions, lot of implications. Quite a bit confusion would come. But I think we can go through. I'll take an hour of your time where I'll explain whatever I prepared. So this is Paninian grammar neurology. I call it concept because we are not fully complete yet, but let me go through. And again, you can ask questions at the end. We'll have time. So I acknowledge Harvard. I acknowledge India Discovery Center. Lately, I have my friends who are in attendance today. Bela Kosaras, with whom we created the high resolution brain atlas long time ago, 25 years ago. And he's my mentor in neurology. We have Prem Nagar, who is helping us as a part of helping the present lecture itself. He's a biologist. Then Bharani Padmanabhan, who is a part of our team now. Then we have many more. We have Sesadri Ramaswamy, who has, I think, joined. Jaspal Singh had been a part of our team. I don't know whether he's today here or not. Many, 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 many people. So I have acknowledged them, but I have not put a full acknowledgement yet. So what's the background? Background is to check, does speech have a theory? and speech is controlled by grammar. So what the theory of grammar? So what are words? How was word created? Now, what are words? What are words? What we speak are words. What are words given to us are words. Flower is a word, tree is a word, cloud is a word, snow is a word. So what are you talking about? Little different. How is the word created? Who made the tree as a tree? Should not human emotions have a common expression? This is more profound. That is, why should there be so many different languages when we are all hungry? So if hunger is one, so the human expression should be hunger. So human expression of hunger should not be 1,000 different words. So can we map the emotion to the expression? How does the word get its meaning? What's a sentence? How do you transfer thoughts to a sentence? Current understanding of speech. So current speech is conceived as a skill we learn from others through imitation. Speech is not considered as an innate human expression. So this is kind of happened in the last century. That is, animals are trained. So humans are trained. Whether this is a part of the colonial stuff, I do not know. But somehow that became the part of education. That language has to be, if a teacher tells you say something, you say that. If you don't say that, you don't know your language. So this whole process that the human has a language, I have an expression, that got lost. So speech is analyzed as a part of communication, restricted to a language. Then, of course, a beautiful thing happened in the neurology. Speech areas are identified, speech phonemes can be activated. Um, so this became the new linguistics. That is, the speech is what you hear. What you hear happens as a sound, just like so this sound can be examined, and you say, okay, it has so many phonemes. What are phonemes? The structures which are repeating itself. So they can repeat. So you can find that what are the things that are repeating. But they're all happening in the oral apparatus. They're not doing that. This apparatus doesn't function unless the brain asks it to function. So this connection of brain was not taken care of in this. So what the research in grammar is externally imposed in language to help translation. Then Chomsky and others, they thought that grammar is universal, and so possibly there's a grammar gene which comes, develops itself. And so the ape doesn't speak, but human beings speak. It's a function of genetic development. Words are labels assigned to objects, events, through cultural tradition. Um, so words we form by virtue of our use rather than our realization. Sentence reduction to history rather than. So each of them can be probably explained much deeper, but let me continue. Empirical scholarship of India. So speech is a human capacity to express feelings and emotions precisely and completely. Human voice has the depth. So now when I say each of these sentence has maybe like 1,000 years of history and maybe hundreds of books which you have to somehow scheme to really convince yourself that that's true. That is, the voice is an expressive medium. We get many different senses. Information comes, we absorb them, and through the voice, we express our inner emotion. So human voice has the depth to express all natural sounds produced in the universe. This is also a profound. Voices are different, but voice has the range and voice has the scope to reproduce any sound that may happen. Sounds associated to events convey unique meanings. This is like yes, a grammarian observed this. That is, all natural sounds have cause, meanings, and that we can perceive. So in grammar, words are sounds and controlled by speech. Speech analysis helps discover grammatical rules. Good grammar prescribes good pronunciation and sound to be used as the animation tool. So words are sound controlled by speech. Speech analysis helps discover grammatical rules. Good grammar prescribes good pronunciation. So this is again the logic has been that so good grammar prescribes good pronunciation, sound to be used as animation tool. So this animation tool, when I'm saying, we'll go more into it, that is the sound can create an acoustic image. The object can animate. This is much more profound than what I may say, and we have not modeled it yet, but that I can call objects in my sound, an object can manifest as sound. Sounds and words are linked to human emotion through pitch and tone. Prosthetic recitation, neural. I'm not going to prosody today. Uh, so our research. Our research is to understand the stimulus transmission in the brain and the registration. Stimulus means I'm a stimulus to you. The snow is a stimulus. Trees are stimulus. Clouds are stimulus. Whatever information comes to us as stimuli. So how do they register in the brain? To understand the role of proteins, neural assemblies, to map the object concepts, how correctly we can really understand an object. So you must distinguish between the two things. One is the object understood by giving it a name. An object is understood neurally by virtue of our own introspection of the object. So create a mathematical model to test the stimulus cognition. And I will kind of touch on that. So grammar to check the stimulus perception, mapping the motor activity, to correlate the motor activity to the Paninian verbs, to take the syllabic map of the stimulus to the superposition of neural assemblies. Now, they're all loaded sentences, but I will gradually dismantle them and hopefully you can understand. To check the role of a neural syntax in vocal articulation and grammar, to understand prosodic strings as innate neural arrangements. So let us see. Okay, so now we come to the Vedas. So Vedas are what I'll kind of try to say you that the impetus of this is that we have access, human beings have access to their perception. You have an access of me, not that I'm speaking, but you have a perception of what you are hearing through your inner understanding. And that inner understanding is not visible to you. It is visible to the brain. Brain creates it. So what we propose, or what I think is true, that we can extract that information from the brain by virtue of concentrating on what did he say. So these are the Vedas. Oral text, unknown origin, we say 7000 BC is a date, so that it has little to do with its own composition. Arbitrary sound streams channeled through meditating learned men. Why learned? Not don't have to be learned, but you have to be intent, desire to know what is in my brain. Is it air? fire, water, sky, object, human beings, woman. So they are all being recorded in the brain. So I want to extract it. So that extraction is not possible if I don't really calm myself totally. So this state, that by virtue of totally eliminating our local noise, mind, we can access the inner brain. Now the inner brain doesn't have a language. We don't know. But whichever way it expresses, if that expression can be uttered, so we would say they are the Vedas. So which basically means if you can operate in a mode in which you are silenced yourself so strongly that you are seeing your own brain totally transparently. And then when you say you are seeing, you can't see. It has to be channelized. You can't interpose yourself that I am seeing. So sound streams are called revelations since they appear spontaneous. The material retained in memory by family members. So now this becomes startling because somebody suddenly starts muttering words. So other people say, what is this? So they try to record it or they try to capture it. And then coaching of the Veda recitation has become popular. Recitation is fairly common. Okay, we'll kind of so so Vedas have some geographic names, some local dialects, local legends. Legends mean stories and events, and so they talk about um, an utterance of the duration of breath, how much you can say. So which is biological. You have a one breath, may have eight to I think 16, 12. Each syllable is uttered, spacing between syllables. Because of the breath. So, the way the Veda is recited, I have given some samples here, and you can really have a little feel for it. This is called
अग्निरे पुरोहितं यज्ञस्य देवभृत्विजम् होतारं रत्नधातमम् अग्निः पूर्वेभिर्षिभिरेभ्यो नूतनैरुत.
Sangita. So Sangita is a continuous recitation where the sound is going as a stream, and that stream uninterrupted. So it's pure sound. So the question is, if a pure sound and only broken by the breath being like a phrase of a sound unit. So about, say, few milliseconds of space, and then it starts again. So that was trying to break into so-called pada. Pada, a man called Sakalya, about, say, 9th, 10th century BCE. So he tried to break it, this so-called strings.
अग्निमेण पुरोहितं यज्ञस्य देवभृत्विजम् होतारं रत्नधातमम् अग्निः पूर्वेभिर्षिभिरेड्यो नूतनैरुत स देवां एह भक्षते अग्निना रजिमश्नव.
So you see this pada. Pada eventually we have given the word. So pada probably means as a semantic unit of sound that can have a structure, whether it's neural or not. That is when it is being composed. So you have a space. So this gentleman, Sakalya, I said, he tried to gather it. So then let's go to the science of it. So origin of the Vedic language debated. Why debated? Because people don't think you can speak from your mind. People say that you must have something to depend on your language. So this whole operation that we can utter what is in your, so this you have to experiment that do you utter yourself? Be very lonely, try to meditate, try to be yourself, and you will see possibly you're speaking to yourself. When speaking to yourself, which language you are speaking. Could be the language that you learned, a language that you are thinking, but it's more than that. That depends upon state of your meditation. So the claim that the more nomadic tribes traveled west and south from the Asia, some kind of a thing that they have to say because they have to bring a language in. Um, and what happens is the Vedic language also similar to other languages like German, French, English, and West European. So the question is, are they family? They could be a family, but that's a construction of some kind of Proto-Indo-European, in the sense people concocted this kind of a language, and then people spread. Some of them showed up in India, and then they try to create the Vedas. But what happens is none of the other languages, so-called similar to Vedic in that time, exist anymore. And the Vedas are so venerated because when it becomes startling, somebody starts reciting out of nowhere, it becomes a different kind of phenomenon. So that phenomenon has not really repeated itself, except last century there's a Daiva Brata, somebody in Bangalore apparently had that experience. But my feeling is such an experience can be repeated if you really be calm and totally grounded and be extremely truthful. That can be so no other language and scheme exists. Vedas are memorized and venerated. So that's my clue. That is the startling phenomenon somebody speaking that makes it as though divine, auspicious, and people kind of clamor that this is something happening. There can be a theory where the Vedic language speakers migrated out of India, but it has the same problem archaeology. That is, if people migrate, mean they must have their pots, pans, clothes, chappals somewhere there. They don't find them. So we have to settle the observation that the Vedas are spontaneous. So Indian grammarians and Panini, it is unclear how the analysis of human speech began. Unclear in the sense, it's not the Vedas are the first object spoken. Um, there could be people communication before, but such communication could be grunts, could be like shouts, could be like single syllables. So this particular thing that we have syllables that we can express, the phonemes we have biologically. The early human speech assumed to be through grunts and monosyllabic sounds. The discovery that humans can express in many different tones, pitches, and phonemes is the first contribution of Indian grammarians. What is this now? That the voice has this large depth of tones, large depth of pitches, large variety of syllables. A lot of names have been cited, old legends, oral literature, about this analysis, but we don't have any text. What has happened is people think all this exercise was done so that the Vedas may be recited properly. This depth and this kind of a so-called balancing of breath, speech. Um, but the science of it, that I can make an acoustic image of the object. I want to talk about the sun, and can I portray the sun? And only means to portray is sound because sun can't so far away, but I can talk to sun, animate the sun, and then sun can, through my sound, sun can be animated. So I basically feel the presence of the sun in front of me, not a distant luminous object far away. So grammarian Panini dated somewhere 700 BC to 400 BC. Again, these dates are speculative. But he did around, see, they said he's pre-Buddha, something like that, because Buddha doesn't mention about him. Most likely is born modern day Pakistan and some, this is again, has some trace that he was in Salatura, but probably he taught in. Um, he came to Magadha as being sponsored. So early Vedic grammarians, and then Yaska. So Panini cites 10 grammarians, officially Kasyapa, Gargya, Galava, Chakravamana, Bharadwaja, Sakatayana, Sakalya, Sainaka, Spatayan. So like that. These are the names I carry from Panini's book. Panini has this massive book called Astadhyay, which is again Sangita material. They are sutras, but the sutras are the string. So you don't know how the sutra will end, but you have to decompose the sutra from the style of recitation. Sakali referred as a scholar who created Padapatha. Sakatayana, 9th century. So this becomes a first part of this science, that is, all sounds have a root. Root means some origin. He doesn't say where is the origin. There is a origin. So we should say that origin is in the brain. Why should that be origin? I'll come to that. Text by grammarian Yaska has come down. Yaska's dated 7th century, analyzed the distinction between nouns and verbs. Nouns get their forms via verbs. Yaska demonstrates that an object may have different names. This is important. That is, same object, let us say snow. It can be seen as the snow covering the ground. It can be seen the snow falling from the sky, or it can be seen snow flying in the air. So constantly all different objects contain snow, but they come from different ways of expression. The logic is when you bind them with snow, they become contextual, they become interesting. But somehow, once you differentiate them, that is the qualifier being translated. For example, I can say the snow as a flower from the sky. But then if we say if a sky flower, so flower becomes the connotation as those flowers are coming. You are not saying flower-like. So this metaphorical operation that the brain does when it creates a metaphor, something like, so that has become difficulty in the Western literature. When they translate, the like part gets omitted. And hence it becomes the snowflower. And snowflower has no meaning. Snow is not a flower, and there's no snowflower. So it's flower-like objects from the sky as snow. If you see this massively in various translations and so on, and somehow they exist, and we do not have a real avenue to create new translations. Yaska demonstrates the object may have different names depending on how the object is viewed. Object meanings will derive the meaning of sentence. So Yaska's argument is reference by which Indian scriptures have been translated. Yaska created the first glossary of word synonyms, exhibiting how different sounds may point to the same object. He also saw the formation of homonyms. There is something called upasarga comes in this process when you separate out what Yaska did. The Sangita I showed you or the Padapatha. So from Pada, so if you separate out, then he detects that there are nouns and there are verbs and there are some objects called Upasarga, which kind of repeat in many places. And then he found that the Upasarga can have two kinds. One is supporting kind, one is negating kinds. So he said that the words may have positive meanings or negative meanings. Panini declared that the word takes a meaning through its position in a sentence, sentence the organic element of the speech. This is different because whether the information stays in a word or information stays in a sentence is being debated. But what I have come to feel, that word, if spoken properly, itself is a sentence. We'll come to that. The most significant contribution of early India is that the voice is a distinctive signature of the human being. This is powerful. That is, we're all identified by our voices. Not the features or something, but your voice. That you can distinguish in a crowd, in a mixture, in yourself. So this particular thing, that the voice has an identity. And then the voice also has a range. And that range we may not all exploit very much, but if you wish to exploit, you can say that you have also to map all sounds that are natural. You can really create back, map them. Map them in the sense, not the intensity of them, but you map them. That means if physically you can reconstruct the natural sound in your voice map. We don't know who discovered this, but this has been called Bach. Bach as a power, as a natural propensity of your own energy, where you can understand and take information in and then express. Musicians do it, but it's larger than that. The stimulus analyzed and processed in the brain. It's stored in a network of neural assemblies, which electrically connect to the muscles through nerve fibers. This is neurology, but I'll come to that a little more. Acoustic image of the stimulus can be recreated by drawing information from the neural assemblies. We assume the voice has the fidelity to portray acoustic image to the vocal syllables. Now this acoustic image, when it's done, when I'm saying acoustic image, it is not audible image, acoustic image. But then becomes audible when it becomes muscles, throat, tongue, they operate on it, and they become vocal syllables. Through empirical trial and error, possibly unobstructed experimentation, the independent vocal syllables are established to be 64. This is Panini and Paninian other grammarians. That is the way we can regulate our tongue and the vocal cords in such manner so that the unit sounds that may come out from our mouth are 64. Experiment of it is not seen, but the record of it. 64 syllables functionally counted as 64 distinct ways sound can be produced in the oral cavity through airflow, each of them having a neuronal counterpart. Why neuronal counterpart? Because the brain has to produce them and then triggers a signal to the muscles to utter them. The number could be higher than 64, which have not been experimented, because there's a localization of it. The voice has the capacity to reproduce acoustic stimulus. In this scenario, the stimulus can be articulated as such without being processed. These are the sound stimulus. When you're hearing, because speech is also acoustic. So if the acoustic stimulus comes, the brain processes them as such. I mean, that's the idea, because we can memorize. Memorize doesn't need understanding. The other things, other senses, you need analysis to understand so that you can transform them to an acoustic image. But acoustic image itself, and we'll talk a little more about that later. So basic vocal alphabet Each element of the basic vocal alphabet is called an akshara. This word, again, is a Paninian word. It doesn't exist in the Vedas, but has a power, undecaying permanent entity. So a sound syllable that we have is permanent. Its initial enunciation could be due to the unnatural origin of the Vedas, because unnatural because when people are speaking spontaneously, so you kind of say, means speaking spontaneously means it did not happen before. So akshara. But akshara is not the speech itself. Akshara is the syllable of the speech. And that has to be understood, which basically would mean, which I said that when I did the cremations. So when you utter your akshara properly, so each akshara can have an immersion in you. And that immersion has to be experienced. So it is not a good or bad. That's immersion. You are feeling that akshara in you. By asserting the akshara to be permanent, you face the question of the fidelity of the sound. By imitation or permanent sound the akshara will produce. This is difference. We all live in this particular world now, which is imitation. Words are given to us and we speak them, and somebody teaches them speak in this manner, this is an accent, this is Portuguese, this is Russian, this is Japanese. But akshara is not Portuguese, Japanese, akshara is human. So when you say akshara, you should feel totally rested to yourself. You said it. So that whole connotation that my sound can calm me down, ground me, my own self, has been called mantra. It can rest the mind, because your happiness won't come unless you rest the mind. It's a little difficult concept, but you can, probably some of you try it. But I would say, please try it and experience it. It is not something to be told. We have convergence when the sound is produced completely voluntarily as a stimulus expression without any effort by the human being. The akshara in such situations is called mantra. As we see, the nomenclature assumes meanings associated to sounds. The concept mantra assumes the isolation of mana, mind. So we claim that akshara is a cosmological unit of expression, total 64, which means all information that comes to me can be divided into the 64 units, because I should be able to express them. And because this connection, that expressibility is a property of mind, and hence the information that comes to me has to be compartmentalized into 64 units such that they can be expressed. The manifest inverse is expression that is seen by senses. Expression is stimulus that creates neural image. So this neural image is acoustically expressed when we silence our mind. We must qualify that the above scenario of the mantra in the Vedas is different than a mind reacting to stimulus will excite different itself by triggering emotions. I hope people are getting the point I'm trying to create. That is, one is you when you are in basic state, and that basic state realized by totally silencing yourself. And then the syllable that can come in that state calms you. It may be expressed, may not be expressed, but the very state of it will keep you in a ground state. Now, whether we should be in a ground state or not, that's a different question. But that has not been experimented, and we used to experiment that by the model. Now, Panini's alphabet. So now what happens is Panini comes in through these 64 operations, but then what the language is using. Element of manifested sound that heard is burn. So he calls Yakshara is there, but now when Akshara is manifests itself, I'm speaking. So it's not, it becomes descriptive, varna. Akshara points to conscious space, Varna points to the object. Panini's goal is to create rules for the construction of words using the individual Varna phonemes. He accepts the standard four classes of word: noun, verb, prepositions, and gerunds. Why? So adjectives are not here. Adjectives are also nouns, verbs, but it's profound. It's a large piece of material, so I'm kind of putting in one sentence. In 14 aphorisms, Panini cites 42 varnas. So out of 64, 42 are descriptive. Descriptive in the sense that whatever we are perceiving in normal way or Vedas perceived, they can be altered by 42 syllables. So Panini. It may not be fully complete, but since we're talking Panini, we have to. So this 42 are divided into two groups. Shwara. Shwara is something where the tongue is not really blocking anything. We let the tongue fly or stay itself. So when that happens, and then we're not using the windpipe, so whatever the sound comes, that's swara. It has to do with the voice, the birds, swara. You don't need a windpipe, but you can speak through your oral apparatus because you may not have a body. You may have only a mouth. So, and Benjana depend on the airflow from the body, which is like a primate. You have some kind of a spine and so Benjana expressed by means of a shwara. So they're two different things. Shwara is your mouth, Benjana is your body, and then Benjana can express itself. But the pain is your body, pain is in the shwara. So if you express your hunger, thirst, pain, so you have to use it from the body, but then you use it with the mouth. Shwara sounds are 9, Benjana sound 33. Shwara Benjana have been termed of vowels and consonants, very loosely. I must also say, if you people reading literature in translation and various ways, interpreted way, refrain from them. You have to understand, my point is try to understand few things well, or one thing well. Don't dwell in many things. The much literature is there. I don't know who creates them, why they create them, but they're all bogus, wrong. Take it from me. And then, however, if you can go to the original, please do. You list them. Can't go to original, recite yourself. Short phonemes are articulate with open mouth, no tongue obstruction. Short phonemes can be detected to have tones. So tones. So he detects 3 tones, but I think tone can be analogous. Analog in the sense you can have multiple tones and which are not really manifesting. Time measures, again, he takes 3, 1, 2, and many, but I think we have a many, many more time measures. So we still see the model. Benjana phonemes are classified in 3 groups determined by tongue position and articulation. 5 each are formed by the tip of the tongue touch the throat. So tip of the tongue, tongue, tip of the tongue. So I can put the tongue in various places. And through that, I can block the sound in different ways. So there are 5 ways I can put my tongue. This is scientific. I don't know the Panini's scientific training, but some people say he was an anatomist, you knew his body parts. So the tongue can distinctly, like root of the throat or the teeth, lips, palate, top of the palate. So whether they are distinct parts or not, but the question is distinct sounds will come. So he navigates them. He makes 25 sounds out of them. Then 4, then he says, if the touches and slight touches. So this is interesting. What does slight means? What does it mean scientifically? What a slight thing is. So slight thing is that where if they should not touch, but you can't escape the operation of the tongue. People who are into, understand grammar, they can go into those. But you have to practice them. You can't take it from the books. And then another four are sibilants are the sh sounds. So remaining 22 phonemes are assumed to be independent but appear as an appendix to the. So I should explain them more depth at some point. So neurological implications of what Bharani says. We can make the fundamental scientific statement that speech phonemes are not artificial but neural. We assert the neurological view that all actions in the body are regulated from the brain as a part of evolution, and the healthy brain has the capacity to process all sensory information and store as stacked neural information in memory. We are making assumptions. The 64 Vedic cognitive units are the innate classifiers to information. Each of these distinct engram is permanent. This is something we invoke. I'll come to that when we do the model. These need to be meditated upon to gain access. We achieve computationally. Model assumption 2, the occurring engrams distort to the additional connection to create transient neutral assemblies to denote objects. So there are 42 permanent engrams, and there are connections which are transient, which happens at the instant you try to understand. Speech happens or the perception happens. Occur engrams distort the additional connections to create transient neural assemblies. A consonant carries a vowel with it for expression. Vowels carry tone and time measures. An examination of vowel carried by a consonant may provide clues to the consonant, time and space. Occur is a cosmological unit, we said before. Now, I should again strongly suggest that each of these words have their own implications. So they come from many different disciplines. So you have to understand we're speaking English, we're not speaking in Sanskrit. So you have to understand that what does the word mean there. Occur pairs or triplets are compounded to create higher order compounds for content creation. The stimulus is rendered by the occur in the brain. The word is a group of occur connected through a stable mode of corresponding neural assemblies. Stable mode. You have seen the lectures by Bharani and Prem and Bela regarding the assemblies. So the frozen assemblies are when they become morph into tissues or into structures. But there are also floating things happening. And so we have to see, we simulate them through our computational work. Now, Panini's grammar, little analysis here. Panini uses the Padapatha, then creates mathematical groupings. What is mathematical grouping? That these occurrence, they somehow operate together as a group. So there is this Cardona, who's a professor in UPenn, Pennsylvania. So he has been a Panini scholar for the last 50 years. So he has a massive book. He contains how these groupings are done. So the 41 groupings of the Panini syllables, 42 syllables. So the question is, from the Vedic utterances, we now proceed to check out the nouns and verbs. So Yaska did the nouns, and then Panini goes into the verbs. So also with the thinking that the nouns are produced from the verbs. So Panini uses secretarian theory. The word is etymologically connected to a verb, a permanent neural object, neural construct. Search for the verbs through the association of sounds. This we call modern philology. Something sounds together that maybe they are connected. Strictly not true. Because the sound can, as we said before, can come from many different ways. Because the production, occurrence is constant. Sound is not constant. Utterance is not constant. So the utterance, you have to distinguish between that, in what context, how, who, where, and so that is where the philology, as they do it lately, they kind of connect from the human sounds and to connect this thing, which probably is not very scientific. So, but what Pani discovered, that the sounds as they're uttered, sometimes they can clash. And this is very powerful. That is sounds of sandhi. So certain sounds may not be heard. Certain sounds can go distorted. Certain sounds may look very different than what they were inside the brain. So that he goes on making umpteen rules to see how sandhi may happen. And then after clearing sandhi, Pani comes to 10 classes of verbs. Why 10? We don't know. Or I have not studied enough to say why he should say 10. But it seems that he tries to, his goal is to somehow create a structure. So from this massive glossary of words, to find some rule, some kind of order. So we don't know how many students he had, what the team he had, but somehow they settled down to this is how we will wrap it up. So they wrap it up with 10 classes of verbs from their use point of view, not necessarily their content point of view, because they don't know the content very well. But they know how the sound is. So root verb is called dhatu, which have to accept a neural in origin. Panini catalogs them as 1943 dhatus. So these are the number of things which happen in the brain. That is word origin. Yes or no experimentation, we shall see. We're trying to find the various ways a dhatu should produce, and I'll come to that. Pani Dhatu catalog is based on research in the context of the word containing the dhatu is used. Pani recognizes two flavors of dhatu. One is parasmaipadi, one is atmanepadi. Parasmaipadi is a descriptive. I see the rising sun. Doesn't affect me. I just see it. So my brain simply takes the information. It doesn't do no work. It's pure neural. But the atmanepadi, I breathe. When I breathe, I do work. I am the agent. So the difference between the two. But the philosophical, grammatical, content-wise difference has not been exploited because this has not been explored to the amount it should be. We take the Atmanipadi. So what we do, or the particular model that we're trying to build, we said, okay, take the Atmanipadi verbs, because that we can handle, that the stimulus is acting on us. So we have a reaction to it that we can register. I'll come to that. Panini encountered 20 sound objects which appear as independent words. Upasarga I said before. The noun have 10, 6 cases, to, by, for, from, of, in and on. So they inflected. Pada can be masculine, feminine, neuter. I'm just giving it. I think people who are interested in Panini or grammar, they should read more about this. Upon analysis, the adjectives are treated nouns, adjectives are descriptors. The luminous sun is rising can be replaced by the luminous is rising. So this is the trick where the translators of the English, Indian this thing, they fall into real trap. The luminous rising is not a luminous sun is rising. So that substitution is not literal. Such encryption is claimed part of, and the trouble has arrived. I can metaphorically say trouble has arrived. Somebody one I don't like or something noisy. But trouble is a man or trouble in object. The trouble is an event. Words are organic, they create families. The principal word families are relationships. This is again more important. So I can create new words by my son related to me. So I don't have to have say my son, but that can be a word because my son is also my relation to son is same as your relation to your son. So that can be a suffix. That is relationship. So Kuru clan, Angiresha family, or similarly the place name. I come from Boston, you come from Calcutta, he come from Boston, New York. So those kind of thing, relationships also can be a suffix. Now this is Panini's analysis as the brain is doing because he sees them in the Vedas. So he thinks these suffixes exist. So our goal would be to check how does suffixes form in the brain for relationships. How many relationships should be, are there possible cosmologically? What extensions are done mathematically by invoking suffixes. Some of the suffixes are neurological origin. Then sound classification. Parasmipadi and Atmanepadi verbs operate in different modes. Parasmipadi is total neural. Atmanepadi is muscular. So we have a third assumption here. All stimuli are mapped to Atmanepadi. So that's what we try to or create the assumption that as the stimulus comes, Atmanepadi comes in, but Atmanepadi would be suppressed if the stimulus is not, I don't have a reaction to it. How do I know the reaction? My motor cortex is not reacting to it. So Atmanepadi action determined by motor cortex as a calibrated hierarchy of energy thresholds. I will kind of try to briefly say about this. The 10 classes of verbs that can present various combinations of motor functions, but we have not analyzed those motor functions yet. Tense and time calculations can be tried by the numeral computations. It's possible that the brain states are quantized. Only certain states are recorded in speech. Upasargas are innate neural constructs defining actions in space. After establishing the semantic neural space for each word and syllable, we'll check their permanent groupings. Verb suffixes are mathematically linked to the root. Why mathematically? Because they have to be totally integrated to the root. There's some work going on in different places. They call the computational linguistics, but this part is a little hard. Pan derives them from the source material, the Vedas. They become prescriptive. Because what happens is once you make the rules, so you become a different material now because you don't reproduce the Vedas as such, but you go 75%, 60%, and then you say let go. So basically, however, people, when they use it, so they use the Paninian method, and hence they create a different language. Panini's grammar derived material, but because of the construction, it becomes a new language, Sanskrit, a structured language. The object space, the Vedic people, on this I'm commenting because whether all actions are possible have been coded or not. We have not examined it, and that I'll do to the model, that what are the possible set of cosmological actions that the brain should know or can operate on through motor functions. The question can come on the actional space of the verb. Action space. Verb is an action. Actions are distinctive, independent. Walking and running are two different actions. Simultaneously, two actions handled by adverbs. Adverbs in the sense, I am speaking while running. So while running, the adverb. So that has to be also, brain has to understand that how the verb changes because of this adverb. The Atmanepadi auxiliary action being instrumental. I rescued myself by swimming. I rescued myself with Atmanepadi because you rescued, but by swimming. So now I'm making a little comment here. Various phrases like natural language, universal grammar have been circulating. But what I want to comment, they're not natural. Natural is only thing when naturally comes to you, which I think the Vedas. Because nature is not something that you structure yourself. Nature is something that you express yourself. So Vedic language only natural. Um, so our task is, so now we go to the computation model, determine the translation neural map of the object to an expressible map that eventually expresses as an acoustic entity. The following assumption made. The neural images stimulus decoded by motor cortex determine possible reaction. The reaction cannot manipulate the verb obtained from the data table. So we have a large table, 668 verbs. The neural structure n-gram for the syllable is constant, independent of stimulus. So that's the three assumptions. So Paninian syllables are 42. We map each of them using the analysis before. Discover that verbs can be classified into 4 different groups depending upon their lead. Oh, this is something I discovered independently a few weeks ago, so I'm stating it. That is here in the lower part of it here. When the lead phoneme is swara, the verbs point to an action done by the body. I breathe, I paint, I shrink, I eat. So when I do for myself with my body, so the verb so happens starts with Ishvara. When the lead phoneme is one of the 25 touch Vyanjana, then I do something. I go, I fly, I give, I carry, I think, I roll, I run. So those are, I'm carrying the body. So I'm not doing to the body, I am doing with the body. When the lead phoneme is one of the semi-touch Vyanjana, Yara, Lava, again, when I'm saying this, different material. So when there's an association with another object. So to relish a food, to unite with a friend, to obtain, get an object, to spread over. So those are the verbs have the lead phoneme. Lead phoneme in the first vowel, first syllable. And lead phoneme is sibilant. So then we have this blessing, tolerating, killing. All right. So this is the overall Panini system that goes into the mathematical model that we plan to or we are trying to do. So this is, I'm giving a very short Panini grammar sketch. So we have the extracted sounds here, and it has prepositions, upasarga, nipata, gerund, and then 4 parts, nama, dhatu, upasarga, nipata. So these are now nouns in the Panini have suffixes because noun has the declension. None are the so-called cases and genders. Nouns have the numbers, all part of declension. This is massive. Then verb have dhatu, these 10 classes, and they have tenses, they have moods, so they have to be conjugated. So that suffix is conjugation. So all of them will use this alphabet material. So they disintegrate too. the sound units come to this alphabet units here. And then these alphabet units have the sandhi. So this is the broad picture of the Paninian grammar. And this is a picture of our model. So we get a stimulus, and stimulus creates an image in the cortices, a neural image. You should see our previous videos to understand this process here. So what we are saying now is this neural image talks to the motor cortex to see what kind of action are possible or reaction, action diagnosis. So motor cortex, and also this goes to the recollection hippocampus to see whether we had seen the stimulus before. So that's it. So after having done this, so this kind of gives the verb. So they go to, we create this Akshara engrams, the 42 of them, which are the Paninian's Varnas. So they are like a concept maps of based on the particular Akshara. So 42 of them. So they get mapped through, and through processing from the neural image again, so getting the input that how to polish it. So it will go to create the proto-syllables. Proto-syllables will create the syntax, and find the syntax again, it talks to this engrams here, and that creates the acoustic image. So this part of this thing is only concept yet, but we are coding, and maybe another 6 months or so will give you some preliminary results. I guess that's the last slide. Thank you. Thank you so much. All right. If you have any questions, I can stop here. Let's say stop sharing. And you can, what is time now? 11:23. Okay. So we can go 10, 15 minutes or more, depending upon what questions you may have. Probably I went a little fast, but I had to. But again, if you are into it, you get it. If you're not into it, it is complex, could be dark. And if you are into totally the modern science, that I know my words, I compose, I don't see my brain having words. So if you have that category, the thing will be totally dark. So you have to understand that I am a human being, and by virtue of that, I have the capacity. So the exploring that capacity. And as I said before, this is a rare luxury that we are having it here, because world doesn't have that time to really explore yourself, to understand your brain. You know what I mean? We are so binary, what I do next, not really understanding, do I understand what I do next? All right, so okay. So anybody has any questions, you can probably, or comments or something you heard before, or something I don't like to hear what we should do. That kind of thousand things come, what you should do. Refrain from those or send private mail. But for the public discussion, if you have a clear question that you think needs explanation, or you can extend some of the ideas. So let us see what we're hearing. Unmute yourself to speak. Or maybe raise hand or something, or does anybody has any comment?
Yeah, Rekha Lil, please ask your question.
No, actually, he said we can refer to the earlier lecture or something. So, how to get it?
Oh, there are videos. I think if you're in the list, I sent the video listing yesterday or day before. Are you in the
Okay.
list? Are you in the
No,
brain research list?
first time I am attending.
Okay, all right. So we'll put you in the list, and then that list has the videos. We have about that's the whole history of it. I did not get in the history of it today, but
Thank you.
you can. Are you a researcher of brain or language, or
No, no, I am studying Panini.
you study what?
I am
Panini.
Panini, yes.
Okay. So did you see whatever we said about Panini? Do you is your how is your
Yeah,
view of?
I could correlate with it.
Okay, all right. Where are you now? Are you in US, India?
No, I am in India and I have some work with health related activities also.
So how did you come to know about the lecture?
No, in one of our Panini students group, I came to know.
Okay, anybody else?
Namaste, sir. This is Rajeshwar, sir.
Hmm.
Sir, like I have maybe because of
So you are the
not
professor in Pilani, is it?
no, sir. I'm in Amrita, sir. Amrita Chennai campus, sir.
Amrita Chennai campus. Okay, all right.
Yes, sir. So like earlier you said there are 64 syllables, sir. So like
So you are
how?
a brain scholar or a Sanskrit scholar or Vedic scholar?
No, sir. I am a Sanskrit scholar. I completed PhD in Vidyapeetham, Tirupati. So
Hmm.
I work here in Amrita Chennai, sir.
Very good, very good, very good. Okay, all right. So what's the question?
Yes, sir. You said 64 syllables, na, sir. So
Hmm.
maybe 64 four, or maybe you stated maybe like how you calculated, sir. But
So
as per my
Paniniya Sikhya. So Paniniya Sikhya is a book
yeah,
which kind of summarizes it. If you like, you can send me mail. I'll send you a. Which is we do not know the Panini wrote it, but that's the Sikhya book.
uh,
Pratisakhyas also talk about it, but the Sikhya book I can send you the manuscript. It's a
but
massive.
I studied Panini Siksha, sir. But I remember I read only like phonemes or varnas there. Varnas are syllables like aksharam and varnam. Both are two different things, sir, as per my understanding. Maybe I'm not wrong because I have
No, read
studied Pan.
Paniniya Sikhya. No, that's okay though. You're not wrong. Read Paniniya Sikhya. Try to
No,
dig into
I,
more. Mm-hmm.
but I, as I
Yeah.
remember,
It's not
uh,
remembering something. Studying is not remembering. Studying is be scientific, be clear. It's not that what you heard, man. So that's okay though.
no, what is syllable, sir? Like, did you mean varna and syllable both are same? I'm not talking on the number. Just I wanted to know the
I
definition.
said what I said. You can review this what I said before again. So I'm not going into debate about. There are fundamental things there. I agree. So you
Just
may
I
not
want.
be, you may not have the. So be a scientist. Try to see what akshara is, what varna is, what
Uh,
sandhi is, from a scientific point of view, so that you can understand them quantitatively. Not somebody says something to you, but you understand them. The whole thrust of my lecture today is
mm,
my understanding, my voice. I know. It is not that somebody told me because I know, but
mhm.
you could dig into it. We study Vedas ourselves. For the last 10 years, my friend, I don't know whether he's here or not, Ramapriya. So we do. So it is not the Vedas people are reading in the various temples and matas and so on. They're not visualizing. Devi is not coming in front of them. They are reciting. They're jumping. They're trying to say, they're all Vaikhari. They don't have the soul in them. The Vedas have the soul in them. Each syllable has to have the prana. Each syllable must itself come alive. And that you can only happen when you give time to it. It's not easy, not straightforward. It's not ritual. It's not something I finish. It's something the Indra must come. And Indra comes only when you are into Indra. So this whole thing, the subject-object relationship that you're invoking, and that has also, I don't know, I don't want to criticize anyone, but that has gone into the religion, into our paddhati, into our fields and so on, that something I'm calling, there's an object there. There's no object. All is one subject. I and you are one. So when that happens, you are inside of me. But you have to feel that. And that's sound. Sound is the means by which the object can enter you. And then you see the full scope of the object in you. Object to reveal to you. That's the theory. Or that's
Yes, sir.
what's
I
doing.
got not wrong.
No, it's
I
not
could
straightforward. That's okay though. Let me go. That's okay. Write me mail and we can talk more and so on. I think that's okay though. I knew people would be it's not really straightforward. It's not like I know. No, you don't know. You just don't know because you look like you're too young. Study them, deep immerse them if you have time, energy. You know what I mean? Let each a syllable do it so strongly. Let the universe expand itself and come in front of you through that syllable. Then you say you know. But knowing is something by reading in a book. Knowing in something, physically experimenting, is it true? Not that I know, but I have come to a feeling that this is true. We're exploring. So I'm not arguing with anyone. Many people will say it is wrong. They have the right to say it is wrong. Okay. I appreciate what you're saying, but I don't want to dwell, more into this kind of a argumentative operation, right? All I say that all recitation that you are hearing in various places, they are not doing Vedic recitations. Vedic recitations does not happen unless that is sakara. Yajna is not a Vedi. Savitri will arrive. You become Savitri. Probably that's what they're talking about. And I think what I'm saying is I believe in that. And belief is belief. You know what I mean? And if somebody says, I don't believe in that, that's fine. What you can do? You know what I mean? That's okay though. I'm just trying to find, if I believe, is there a science to it? So maybe wrong. Okay, other questions? I do appreciate your interest, but if you want to know more or interact more, do talk to me privately. Anybody else have any question or thoughts? I don't want to discourage anyone, but at the same time, I don't want to, because this conviction that we must speak something, that that a ritual has to be completed, that so many slokas have to be read, that I'll make certain amount of noise, that has distorted the cosmology of the Vedas. Vedas are animation. The world is animated. So the objects are talking to me, I'm talking to the objects. And that can't happen through the Western science. That can't happen through reading. That can't. See, the object, see, unless the object subject become one, so basically you are not invoking the object. You are absorbing the object. I am the object. So that can only happen when your body is totally pure. See, object doesn't come to you. So that's how we call them rishis. That is, you should have no irritation of any kind, any grievance, any worry, any anxiety. You know what I mean? And then if the mind is totally still, when you are not you anymore, you are the object, because object and you can't be together. So this elimination of you is so hard, so difficult, maybe graceful, I do not know. That's a different experiment. But logic, what we are saying is there's a cosmological process where the object can come to you through sound. And that sound is we call it divine or whatever, doesn't matter, it's cosmological. And that's the object in you. And once you see the object, you see the object. So the question is that the sound cloud that covers you through your recitation is your cloud. But if you don't carry that cloud with you, there's no cloud. And people can say, what Veg you are talking about? What cloud? I'm making it up, you know what I mean? But all I'm saying is that cloud has no sound in it. So you are kind of realizing, you are not saying that I saw the following. Following came at this thing. Okay, so it's kind of a little more complex. So we can only publicly discuss. But the science of it, we have to kind of, what we are after is there a science to it. Whether we are cosmologically so designed that we can capture objects. Some people call it yoga, but it's cosmology. Human beings have that ability. Do they have? And then if you say we don't have, then there is no thesis anymore. So thesis comes only when we say, yes, we have. Then we proceed. How can we have? What is that? What is that? Other points, anybody? Yes? Panali, Kuldeep Singh? No? Anybody else want to have
No, sir. Actually,
yeah.
it's a really basic languages. Now, whatever researches I'm
Who
doing
is
on
this?
that,
Who is this?
this is Pranali
Manali.
Sisodia.
Okay, all right. Where are you?
Yeah.
Where are you located?
Sir, sir, I'm located in Pune, Maharashtra, Pune.
Okay, all right. And you are a brain
Yeah.
scientist or a Sanskritist?
No, I'm a researcher scholar. I'm
Yeah.
a PhD scholar, sir.
Doing what?
Sir, I'm doing my PhD in the natural language processing that I'm going to select the low resources languages. So I
Okay.
want to do the researches on that.
Okay. Okay. So if you have interest, do the Vedas. Because the natural language processing that people do these days, they're not operating on natural languages. I don't want to criticize anyone, but they're not, see, what they call natural, they see Paninian grammar. And
Okay,
Paninian
okay.
grammar is not natural, approximating
They
natural. The Vedas are natural.
exactly.
So that if you understand, but that, but you have to finish your PhD, and so you cannot take this as a PhD topic. So do your PhD as they ask you to do, but then if you have interest, then be a scholar and to see cosmology. The cosmology of sound is not the grammar of sound.
Okay.
How sounds
Right.
mix, how sounds happen. Do I understand a tree by its tree sound? So that's different than making cocktail of sounds. All right. So Panini is excellent, great, and people have kind of using him. But to understand where his exceptions exist. So the question is
Okay.
when the nature becomes artificial. So the
Right.
point is nature is so large, so vast, and in our normal behavioral process, we don't need the full nature. A subset will do,
Exactly.
and subset does. So we operate in extremely subset of material. But in order to be natural, we become natural. I become a tree. I become mountain. I become sky. You know what I mean? And then I speak their language. So now, for example, in Ramayana, they say the Hanuman speaks some other language. Then people startle, people
Yes.
laugh at it. People say, how can he speak in language? You know, I mean, Sita says that if he understands some bird's language, what is this? So the quintile language, when it's like natural, then it can penetrate anyone. Natural. But you have to be able to listen to it.
Yes.
So that listening is a function of how much of calmness one has. You know what I mean? So that is something that we have to explore, that such state is possible. And then, but once we say those states are hoax, we have to operate on our present state, I and you. So then that state is gone. So you have to come down to the basic operation. I and you is one set. There is no you. You don't have a name. Your name is in me. We are all together. That's a larger theory. And that theory did develop, but somehow, through various reasons, we have come away from it because we operate
Yeah.
in I&U competition. You know what I mean? So the total pleasure of really realizing ourselves, oh, I am that being. I am that divinity. I'm that larger. That doesn't come. We operate and then we die, right? So we have to kind of,
Yes, sir.
so a single syllable will take you there, but practice on it
Ye-
if you can.
Yes, sir.
You can.
Yes,
It's a
sir.
luxury, but it's okay though. Give it time, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. You're young, it will take time. I was also young like you. Not that I know, but I'm convinced of this. That's what I thought I will give this lecture. That is, I do science, I do cosmology otherwise, but that the cosmos lives in us through sound is the new discovery. I don't have to go to Jupiter, but I can create Jupiter through my sound. I don't have to see my mother. I can create my mother through my sound. So that ability is given to me. And that's India's discovery. You have it. Exploit it. Gagana Sadrusha. Gagana. All right. So anybody else has a question? You write to me privately, all right? We'll talk more.
Yeah. Sure, sir. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Pranali.
Namaste, Misra ji.
Okay.
Sorry, I joined late.
Oh, okay. I
Okay.
finally gave the talk. I thought delayed, but then I said, well, getting old, so why not?
Okay.
But this is a part of it. Then
Yeah. So the 2 points that caught my attention when you are concluding. One, in natural language processing, what computer people, AI people, neural linguistics are adopting, there is nothing natural.
Right. My view.
What they're handling is basically the impact of a conscious speech on a signal variation, for which some notations, measurements, modules, mensura is given. So it is like studying sun using a Plato's caveman shadow studies. So that part I do understand, and lot of discussion is
But don't
going.
criticize. My point is why things have gone the way they have. So this basic Aristotelian logic that objects are different.
Yeah.
The stone is not a human being.
Yeah.
So once we make stone a stone, I call it a stone because it doesn't care what I call him.
Yeah.
So when that logic comes in, so the object loses its dignity. So the basic difference between what that delights me, what India discovered is the object has an identity. Whether you give it or not, it has an identity. So you respect the object. So no different doesn't matter, but don't label it. Don't call it a name, but know its name. So the question is, we are in a whole different world now that we have given all things names.
Yeah.
And so we operate, and what they are doing is, okay, if I have the following name, what the third name would be, what the fourth name would be, with correlations. So they're doing that, but that's okay. That's how technology also moves. But we have to somehow bring back to thinking philosophically that the names are dignifying. Ask the person what your name is. The person say, my mother gave me this name and so on. No. You have a name. Explore it. Your propensity, your guna, your relationship. Okay, so then what happened? But I love you. By the way, he's what, Professor, what is? Venkatesh Sastri.
Shastri, long
Sastri
living, okay.
has been engaged in this kind of research long before I came into scene. So I owe a lot of my thinking to him.
The second point, what you highlighted was the subject becomes the object. There is no duality difference. And the language is either the glue or the final thing. That's what it leads to. So the name and form. Now, I just want to supplement this with one information. In Sanskrit language study, we use the term prakriti, a technical term for the language base. Suppose Rama Shabda is taken. Rama is the prakriti, Ramaya is a pada, which has got a pratyaya and a prakriya process and a modifier in that. So if Ramaya is a given name for me or given communication unit, how do I get to the base prakriti? That is the vision. And if my name is Rama, in the world I do Ramaya, Ramena, Ramam, all that. But am I really Rama? That is technically the secret of what is called Vak Yoga, what you referred as take a single syllable, go to its root, and figure out what happens. So I have used a part of this technique for kind of a yoga related medical healing systems, and it has been working very excellent in arthritis, rheumatics, and then Parkinson's and other cases. Take a single sound, just follow that. No meaning attached. 10-15 minutes, single syllable, wonderful results are coming. So we
My
are trying to
friend,
document and present it.
very good. My friend Bela is here. Bela Kosaras comes from Hungary, and he's a neuroanatomist, and I owe a lot of my thinking to him. So he understands and he profoundly stresses the brain is too large to be contained. That means whenever you say Ramaya or whatever object you said, so it is not frozen in the brain. Brain can create something else
Yes,
depending upon the situation. So
yes,
that neural connections, that cognition of the local event, and to apply the local event with the neural connections
yeah,
is
yes,
what the brain does.
yes,
The question is how many degrees of freedom it has. So what I theorize that because there is a finiteness of time, because breathing has a cycle, 1 second, and hence the brain can have only this much of freedom. But in that freedom, the number of events that can do, number of neurons it has to manipulate is just many. So what probably would happen or happens that brain economizes, condenses, diverts, slurs. It does it to the situation because each situation, each event is different. And that difference, the brain registers. We don't notice it.
yes.
We don't notice it. I
That's
think
the deep technicality.
I
That
understand
is
that the
the deep technicality.
Buddhists notice it in some form, and they try to do some kind of a meditation on it. But we have to make a science out of it. How does the brain really cognize different events? This snowstorm is not the same snowstorm as 3 days ago. So that difference the brain knows. And hence you have a different, slightly different to the tone, to the frequency, through sandhi, some operation to connote a difference. So
Yes,
that's the power. I think my gratitude to Bela for this enormity. But we shall see. We shall see. I think I'm grateful to you all that we even could say a few things, and then we'll work some more. We have to do a lot of computing, and I will report whether what we see. Okay, thank you. What are you now?
I'm in
Okay.
Bangalore right now still. Okay, hopefully January, February I will come around and certainly plan to meet you at your place and enjoy your, residence.
No,
Okay,
no, January I'm going to India. I come. So they have this Bharata Bodha in
ah,
Guwahati. They have some kind of an ensemble, and then I have
let's
a.
see, we'll get connected. It depends upon my
We shall
schedule and
see.
all.
We'll see you. We'll
Yeah.
see you. Okay. Anybody else?
Yeah.
Uh,
Devaji has a
Dev
question.
Patnaik, yeah,
Oh,
Very nice,
Dev Patnaik.
very nice talk.
okay.
And my question is related to what was said about conscious sound and unconscious sound. What I knew of Buddhism, I found that Vasubandhu characterized sound in 5 different type of sounds. And one of them was Chetana Sabda. My question is it possible to say a sound, any sound that one hears, is that a conscious sound or not? In other words, if the sound we are hearing is coming from a sentient being, or is it not coming from a sentient being? I hope I am able to put my question the right way.
Yeah, you have a point. You have a point, but we're not getting there. We're not
Not the
getting
point.
there.
I always have a point. Everybody has a point.
No.
But
Point
what
is,
I'm asking,
it
my
is not
question to
relevant to
you,
what we are talking
my
about.
question to you or to anybody else here, is it possible to say the sound we are hearing is not coming from a bot, is coming from a man or a woman or an animal?
Right. No. What I'm saying, I hear you in the
if
sense
somebody
it
can
is
answer that, I would be very happy to.
relevant, but the point
I
is,
like to
Vedas is the one.
Vasubandhu came after Panini.
Okay. Can I respond on that?
Thank you.
Okay. See, I understand your question in the background of a Turing test. And if some sound is coming to me, can I say whether it is coming from a conscious articulation or is it a mechanized sound played back? So the whole issue, the logical position is every sound is having a conscious component in it. The other side is if there is a conscious component in a given sound, the live human being can recognize that. The machines have no way to recognize the consciousness. So we need a model of matter, nature, and process to sense, model, mensura of consciousness. So the definition of consciousness is 40 plus and most confusing, and it's done by several neuroscientists and other people in philosophy, and more than that, the yoga practice. I would say my practice, which is given to me and which I teach. Every sound, when cognized by a live person, is sensing consciousness, but a machine fails to recognize it.
Yeah, we'll come to that. We'll maybe another time. Another time.
So
Let us wrap up.
Vasubandhu knew what about these things when he said Chetana Sabd?
Yes.
He did. Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? So going to be 11:58 now here. So, all right. So Vinay, people who have been here before, Professor Mohanty, is he there? Who else is here? Anil, Anupama. Bela, you have a comment?
Bijoy bhai, namaskar. Jayanta.
Oh, how are you?
I'm good. I have some questions, but what I can do, I will write to you in email.
Please do.
Because this is the very basic questions. So maybe for my understanding, yes.
Please do. Please do. Please do. Please do.
Yeah, I will do that.
Okay. So let us.
If there are no questions, it's such a brilliant lecture we had. Can we all applaud?
Okay, all right.
Can we all applaud, please? Can we all unmute?
Okay.
Can we all
well,
unmute?
thank you, Prem, also to coordinate this. All right. We had a small team here. Bharani, Prem, Bela. Okay, let us all.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.